So when she gave me this advice to stop doing all of that and stop making all that money, I was like to her, no, I can't do that. And she was like, trust me, if you do that, you are going to make significantly more. And at this time, this was the most that I'd ever made in my career as a creative. Yo, what's good, people? My name is Suli. I'm a poet, writer, entrepreneur. I work with startups, I consult a lot of startups for many years. I've built my own companies, I've invested in companies, and at the same time, I'm a full-time creative. I started this series on my channel whereby I was trying to educate people on how to turn their creativity into business. It may not take you to your final end destination. It may not make you the millions you want, but it might get you started and get you onto your first 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 pounds. So I guess in order to do that, I wanted to tell people the story about how I made my first 10,000 pounds. And I've been very fortunate in my career. The industries have expanded around me, meaning that as I've grown, creatives get paid more. Even poets who do what I do and writers, they get paid more to do copy and content production, all that stuff. But I've been fortunate enough to be able to see the industry expand around me, meaning I've gone from earning £30 to like 30,000, or from like £15. So I've seen the gradual step of the way, and along that way, like I've always said, the process is more important. And what I've really learned through that education is the decisions that you need to make in order to grow your business as a creative. Now, obviously, there's the obvious one, to start charging more, but a lot of people often struggle with, when do I start charging more? How do I start charging more? And I just want to tell you my experience and how I was able to learn that. I learned a very important concept, which I still apply to this day. It was do less for more. So what's the dilemma? When we start out as a creative, first of all, we don't get no work. Nobody was booking me for shows. Nobody wanted me to create campaigns for them. No one wanted my insight into projects. So what I used to do was, you volunteer your services. You go everywhere you can for the exposure. That's another interesting conversation. Maybe I'll do a video about that, exposure versus getting paid. So what happened was, I started off very early on doing all these runs for like exposure. So I used to go to like little university shows, little pub shows, and I'll tell you, I used to get paid like £10 a show. I mean, like, the only time I stopped receiving like under like £100 for a show was just because of my own self-respect. I did a show. It's a place in central London, and actually this is the first time I practiced the do less and earn more philosophy. So I did a show. It was a performance, a little tiny open mic in this place in central London. After the show, I went up to the promoter to receive my payment, and at the time the payment was so low. I think it was like £15 plus travel or whatever. And I remember the promoter putting his hand into his pocket, taking out a bunch of coins, and just pouring them into my hand. That was like such an embarrassing moment for me, just as a person, thinking, raw, like, I'm making so little that people can just give me like change, like I'm just on the street. So full disclosure, at the time I was working many side jobs. I've always looked at the job that I'm doing as a side hustle. A lot of creatives always say to me, how do I fit my creativity while I'm working? I've always had the philosophy of, whenever I got a job, I never got a job that I'd have to leave the workplace with the work with me, so I could come home and focus on my creativity. Meaning that I used to work in retail, sales assistant, Sainsbury's, Marks and Spencer. I used to be a cleaner all the while, and I made a lot of my most popular videos during that time period. Yeah, I was definitely not making enough to supplement my income. So after that point, I was like, I can't be charging little amounts of money like that. But I didn't really learn the lesson until I had my first success. So having my first success, first viral video, I left my job, but I left it involuntarily. I got fired from the job. It was a mad thing. They called me in the office. We've seen this YouTube video about you, blah, blah, blah. I got fired from that, and they said to me, yeah, we have to let you go because of a YouTube video you've made. So during that period, I actually went into living off my creativity. At this point, I think I was earning maybe like 500 to like £1,000 a show, and I was starting, YouTube was starting to grow, so we were starting to do campaigns, and you get paid like maybe £3,000, £2,000 here, a couple. So the money was kind of adding up. But what happened was, my status started to outweigh the demand. So I was getting asked to be in so many different places. I do a lot of speaking. I was getting flown all over the world. So I would find myself in like 5 or 6 different locations within a week. And I remember I met a lady, Shah Wasman. You should check her out. She's very popular on Clubhouse, and she actually helps entrepreneurs build businesses. Even back then when she had her first business, she was key to help me understand this. I had a speaking event in Canada. So I went to that event, and we were both from London, so we connected. And then she said to me, we can have a conversation about how to grow your business. So I was like, okay, cool. Like I said, at this time, I was really popular. So I will tell you, I remember that month that I left Canada, I earned my first £5,000 just off like doing shows, doing all these little things, maybe like one campaign or something like that. And what happened though is I was everywhere. I mean, I was doing we were just adding up the shows. So I'd do a show here for like £300, £200. And imagine doing that much until it adds up to £5,000. I'm not a mathematician. So 5,000 divided by 300, 6, 7, 8. I don't even know. I remember going to see Shara in the office, Shara and Matt. And she was like to me, okay, show me how you're making money. So I said to her, these are all the live performances that I've done this month. And we wrote them all out. And I remember it was so many. And then there was a one or two things in between that, which was like maybe a brand sponsorship here, or maybe like a public speaking here. And those numbers were probably like in the £1,000, £800 in comparison to the £150, £200 I was doing. And she said to me, if you want to grow your business, you have to stop doing all of these shows that add up to like £150, £300, and do more of these ones that add up to like £500, £600, £1,000, whatever. And I said to her, if I stop doing those, how am I going to get more people who are paying me more? And she said, listen, if you do less for more, not only will your value increase, you have more time to invest into your creativity and hopefully grow your profile. I think the most daunting thing for us as creatives is thinking like we have to look at a blank page and think about how is that going to be worth something. But when you stop distracting yourself, you're forced to look into that at that page and be like, all right, cool, I need to make this into more money. And I'll be honest with you, I did not listen to the advice that was given to me. There was a turning point. I remember I got booked for an event, so I was doing events everywhere. And one of the events was for £100. And I turned up to the place where the event was going to be. It was a large open space. It was a park. And then I looked at the stage I was supposed to be performing at, and this is no disrespect to kids performers, but there was just a bunch of kids scattered everywhere, having no interest whatsoever in what's going on the stage. And I said to myself, is this really worth the £150? At the time, it was a fun fair as well. So it's an open park, there's a fun fair next to it, and there's all this noise going on. And I said to myself, nah, there has to be a point where I draw the line. So I drew that line there and was like, anything I do has to be of a certain amount. So then I stopped, cut them all off. Brands started contacting me saying, oh, we can't afford that. And it was difficult for me saying no, because I don't think I didn't have a job. But what it made me do was not only spend more time on my YouTube product, creating more content online, but it also made me spend more time investing in my other income streams, which is a big part of making money as a creative. As a creative, your brain has the potential to generate so many different streams of revenue. Because, for instance, I want to make a YouTube video. Cool, that can go online. If I make 10 of those, that's a revenue stream. I want to make an audio clip, put that on Spotify, that's a revenue stream. I want to do a big live performance, invite all my audience, that's a revenue stream. And all of these come from your brain and the power of IP. I read a book actually, The Untold Story of Marvel Comics. So as you can see in the background, I'm a big comic book fan. But the business behind Marvel is interesting because Marvel is essentially data, stories and IP, and the most important thing it has is IP. And what Marvel was able to do over many years, which is really tragic when you read this, was build a massive catalogue of IP that they could then farm off to bigger entities. And this is 20 years of catalogue. It's sad because you see a lot of the creatives that made these products didn't get compensated the way they should. And not to digress, what I think was so important was investing in the foundations of how I make money, and that's what that allowed me to do. And what happened was, I made my first £10,000 probably not too long after that. This was maybe like in 2014 maybe. So me and my cousin, he's my business partner as well, we have a platform in Ghana. Whenever we hit a certain figure milestone, we call each other and be like, oh, I just made 5k, 3k, we've been doing this for years. So I remember him saying to me, calling me saying, oh bro, I just made 5k off my business. He works with artists, he grows them. And I was like to him, fam, I just made 10. So that was quite a milestone for me. But I guess the overall message of this is there comes a point in your career when you need to understand that I'm doing too much for not enough, and the demand will come overwhelmingly. And when the demand does not add up to your capabilities and it's taken away from you growing your business, that's when you have to start being like, okay, cool, this is too little. How do I elevate to the next level? So in conclusion, if you want to go from making $0 to maybe £1,000 as a creative, the most important lessons are: invest in your foundations, invest in your revenue streams, invest in the things that build your brand, your portfolio, even if they don't make you money, because they're the things that are going to make you money long term and residually. And then the next one is do less, earn more. If you do want more insight into how to grow a 7-figure business, I have my 7 Figures podcast. I also have my 50 business tips for the man them, which is just business principles broken down for creatives, how to grow their business and make money off it. Bless. Safe.